A fascinating article, actually, about Washington, D.C. So here's the update. It's December 5th, 2015, of the state of marijuana in America. So you've got 4 states, including, plus Washington, D.C., that have legalized it. So 5 jurisdictions, 4 states. And that's all I'm focused on, legal recreation. There's like 20 medical marijuana that's legal, but full-blown recreation is the only way to go. There's a new thing about D.C. that I want to mention. That's what the main point to this one is. But the state of marijuana in America, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Alaska, Washington, and Oregon are all legal recreation. They have passed laws to make it legal. Now, so far, Alaska has not started selling any marijuana. They're going to issue licenses in May. Now, Alaska, they are going to be allowing coffee shops. So there are coffee shops here. So that's compared to Washington, Colorado, and Oregon, which say no to public consumption of marijuana. So you're allowed to buy there, and they're actually more about the tax structure, and they've actually regulated it. And so I guess that's sort of so far what I've got. I'm going to also look up whether or not you can grow and how many you can grow. But that's sort of, you know, in Colorado, they're selling it right now in Colorado. They are selling it right now in Washington State. So those are the only 2 states right now that's selling it. Alaska, there's no sales now, but it has been legal. Alaska has a long history of like 40 years. There was some law passed saying that you could have a personal amount in your own home, no big deal. So in Alaska, it's actually culturally accepted. It's been culturally accepted there for quite some time. So I also think California is probably going to legalize it pretty easy. So that's sort of what's going on. D.C., you can legally possess it, consume it, and grow it. Now, D.C. is actually, it's a very unique case, okay? So D.C., they're, you know, in the nation's capital, they've legalized it, but there's people that's fighting against it, so they said, okay, you can legalize it, you just can't get any taxes, you can't regulate it. So usually legalization and regulation are spoken in the same sentence because, you know, all that tax revenue, right, you can use all that tax revenue to go into. So all that D.C. and Congress has done is sort of strengthen the black market, strengthen, you know, people-to-people type interactions. There's only 6 people who are arrested for marijuana this year, so that's, you know, the D.C. police are not, you know, cracking down on this. And this guy says D.C. is kind of like the Alice in Wonderland of cannabis. The Queen of Hearts is Congress, says Alex Jeffrey, the executive director of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Recreation and regulation should go hand in hand. We are an exception to the rule. So I think that's actually a good thing. So because they're not regulating it, because they're not getting taxes, they've said that it's acceptable, you can use it, and we're not going to try to regulate. You can't, you know, limit how much you could grow businesses. I guess you can't, I'm not for sure. I mean, that puts sort of D.C. in a no man's land. We don't know where D.C. actually is. If you go to D.C., you're not allowed to have any transactions. You can't buy or sell, but the police aren't arresting anybody for it, so you are allowed to buy and sell, and it's not regulated, so I don't know if there's any public businesses. So it's essentially the same people that have been selling and dealing it, and the same people that have been buying it, they're just allowed to do it now. And so I think they'll eventually work that out, but I think it's actually a good thing, because when you get the corporations and all this other shit, that's why the Ohio Amendment was knocked down, because it was essentially just 4 people or something was going to make all the money for all of it, and so even people that was in favor of legalization of marijuana didn't vote for the Ohio Amendment because the corporations was going to try to take all the fucking money, and fuck that, that's bullshit. The corporations get into it, then they won't let you grow it, and, you know, I think for small businesses and individuals, I think it's, you know, there is medical reasons, even just the obvious ones of inducing hunger or inducing appetite and anxiety. There's also glaucoma and cancer and, you know, lots of different things, lots of things that has medicinal properties, plus hemp. Hemp is a huge-ass industry. So this is, you know, America's favorite drug. This is where America's sort of last, I don't know, liberal thing that we get a fucking all champion and shit, and then we can say we're the freest nation ever. North Korea has already legalized it. Sarah Palin is in favor of it. Canada is going to legalize it on 4/20. And so Justin Trudeau, during the campaign, he says, I am against decriminalization. I'm in favor of legalization. So he's, Justin Trudeau, all fucking Canada is going to open up. And, nobody's talking about building a wall between America and Canada. So, perhaps I'd like to move to Canada instead. So far, the two states, or the two places, Washington, D.C. and Alaska, are turning out to be my favorite two places. I thought Colorado was more liberal, but them not having public coffee shops is a point down from them. I still like Colorado. It was on the top of my list. But Alaska is amazing. For $1,000 you could start your own business there. It is cold, so I guess you'd have to have an indoor growing plant. And then there's electric outages that they're talking about. There's a lot of electricity that goes into using it. It would be nice to have a southern state or some, place that you could use sunshine and raise it in your front yard. That would be amazing. It would be such a fucking great world, You have a marijuana garden, your neighbor has a marijuana garden, you sit there and talk about what varieties and brands and hang out for the day. I mean, God, we would be such a peaceful society if we would actually do something like that. And we have a right to our own bodies. Marijuana use, drug use, just any kind of consumption, it's a health. I mean, it's a right. It's a human right. I'm allowed to do whatever I want to my own body. This is my body, right? And marijuana is not even a fucking drug. I mean, it's got euphoric properties, but it's not alcohol, which is 114 times worse. It's not heroin. It's not crack or any of the shit that really fucks people's lives over, or meth and other shit. In fact, we have an endocannabinoid system. So D.C. is sort of in a no-man's land. D.C., it's legal there, and so the black market is actually thriving and stronger. People are smelling it through the streets, but they're like, that's acceptable, that's okay. So that's exciting stuff. Washington and Oregon and Colorado don't have coffee shops. Washington and Colorado are the only ones selling it now, but those 5 places, D.C. is selling it, person to person. Alaska, no sales now, but by May they're going to have licenses, so they'll be up and running in a year. There's a couple states on the verge of legalizing it, Maine, Massachusetts, California, Nevada, but until they actually do, you don't really know what's going on there. California, it seems like, they would do that, but California said gay marriage was okay, and then they said gay marriage wasn't okay, so I don't know if they're actually a good, bright, shining beacon or example of a liberal society. So, I guess the last thing I'm going to mention, just because I want to get it off my chest, I remember getting into a fucking argument that there's canna stock in Letcher County, and there's a couple of the assholes that were running the gates. They're just fucking Nazis and being fucking dicks. But I mentioned that North Korea had legalized it, saying, if a dictatorship, totalitarian country like North Korea could legalize it, then why the fuck can't we? And then they was like, well, if you love North Korea, why don't you go move there? I mean, these are fucking potheads. These are people that agree with, the legalization. Of course they do, because that's what they're doing there. But they want to fucking be pricks to me. I don't know why. I think you set a relationship up, and if they start being shitty to you and you don't stand up for yourself, I think that we can fuck with this guy. This guy isn't giving orders and bossing people around. He just wants conversation and treats people like they're equals. We can fuck this guy over. We can turn his kindness and make it into a weakness, and now I'm in a position of, okay, am I going to fucking go off on these assholes, and I guess maybe we won't be fucking friends, but fuck, you can't fucking bully me. Anyways, I said that North Korea had it legalized, and it's like, fucking North Korea, why don't you go move there? Oh, why not go move there? Because I was defending the whole fucking country. No, I'm not defending the whole country. My point is that it's a shitty country, but they have marijuana legalized. It's sort of like Adolf Hitler. Really shitty guy. I hear more people actually defend that motherfucker than actually speak up against him, but he's an asshole. Fuck Adolf Hitler. But he was in favor of animal rights. He was nice to animals, and I heard that he wasn't a meat eater. That's a good thing. That should show you when an evil institution is doing something, nice and decent. It just kind of shows you that perhaps, we shouldn't be cruel to animals. North Korea, perhaps we shouldn't be such dicks about the marijuana thing. So, you know, basically they made a tempest in a teapot. Tempest is, I don't know, I've even looked this up, but tempest is like a storm or something. A molehill into a mountain, right? They'd say, oh, you say North Korea had legalized it. Well, why don't you go marry North Korea? You know, if you love North Korea so much, why don't you just pick up and move? No, I'd rather stay and hear your fucking dumbass, ignorant fucking bullshit. That's what I would rather do. I mean, but it's like, you don't give me the benefit of the doubt, and you're not sitting there like, oh, you love North Korea. It's like they just didn't want me to make a point. Nope, you get to make no good points. Fuck you. No, that's a good point. North Korea has legalized marijuana, so North Korea, the totalitarian, I mean, just, if anything, what it does show is how totalitarian dictatorship are we versus North Korea. I think that's a good question. That's a good comparison. Police have, you know, they got state power. State has a monopoly on violence, while we're not goose-stepping and they're not raised into, you know, Jewish villages and shit. We have a high prison population. The war on drugs has devastated many people's lives. And, you know, that's, if I smoke a joint here, I walk outside, I smoke a joint, you know, I'm in Virginia, so if I walk outside in front of a police officer and I'm smoking a joint, I'll get my ass kicked and I'll get, you know, charges thrown on me, then I got fucking jail time. I do that shit in North Korea. They were walking around, they got jobs, yeah, they got to fucking worship their fucking leader like they're, you know, he's a god or something, but they could smoke pot and, you know, hang out with good friends and bitch about the fucking god. But here, you know, you can't do that. You can't hang out with your friends and smoke up. So I don't know. I hate them people, the people that was fucking kind of picking on me. But that's my point wasn't that North Korea is a great country, but if a shitty country like North Korea can legalize, I'm in favor of the marijuana policy. I'm not in favor of most of what North Korea believes in. But the marijuana policy, I agree with. Yeah, of course I do. Canada is also going to have, you know, legalized marijuana. Want to move there? Maybe I will. I'm tired of feeling like an outlaw. Yeah, I do like smoking pot. That is something that I like to do. And so I'm, you know, grew up all my life in Kentucky. I'm in Virginia right now, and I guess I have to stick it out here for a minute. But in a year, I'm going to be in a good circle of friends around hippies and, you know, chill fucking people hanging out and not being fucking assholes, you know, just around like-minded, hippie-minded, sort of peace, love, and freedom kind of people. And that means Colorado, D.C., Alaska, Washington, Oregon are the 5 leading places that I would like to go. You also have Maine, Massachusetts, California, Nevada, some other states that are on the verge of legalizing, but they haven't done it yet. And then with the 5 places that have legalized it, you know, they've got their pros and cons too. And that'll be my next video is how much can you raise? Can you grow your own? You know, I think D.C. you're allowed to have like 3 or 6 plants or some shit. So I think that's important too. Raising your own fucking plants, 2, 3 or 6. That seems, why the fuck only 3 or 6? Like, you should be able to raise a goddamn 20 or 30. You know, as much as you want. If you want to raise hemp, you could raise a whole fucking acre of hemp, which is the same seed in Kentucky, but that's if you don't plant them all close together and they start blooming and they got buds and all of a sudden you're a criminal, fuck that. I want to see acres. I want to see rolling hills. I want to see marijuana gardens. You know, in Croatia, 20% of the public smoke marijuana. So I don't know. I just feel like I'm not trying to push this down on anybody. If that's your thing, that's your thing. I think we would get along. You hear about somebody who's smoking pot, you know they're cool. You know they're fucking chill. And they're, you know, question authorities, which is a good thing. It's one of the biggest hypocritical, you know, positions that the older generation, I'm 33, so I feel like I'm the oldest of the millennials, but all the generation that's older than me, they suck. They fucking are lying, hypocritical pieces of shit. It's about oppression. It's about, you know, whatever. It's about oppression. It's about being judgmental. It's about acting like you're better than other fucking people, and fuck that. Fuck that. Yeah. Meanwhile, you know, their fucking husbands are alcoholics, beating up the wives and kids and shit, and, you know, like, total racist pricks. I mean, these are the people that's going to be judging me. Fuck that. And like I said, I'm tired of feeling like an outlaw. If somebody was to, you know, if somebody was to rob me or take my marijuana, what am I going to do? I can't do shit about it. So because of its illegality, it actually increases the dangers. In Alaska, they have no issues. I saw an article just now, but in Alaska, they don't have any issues when it comes to reporting a crime. If the crime happened and you don't have any other, like, funny business going on, you just, you know, had a stash, you had a a plant and someone stole it, well, that's a property crime. Someone stole your shit, and somebody needs to do something about it. There's a fucking thief in the neighborhood, and that's bullshit. Letcher County, and on Love's Branch in Letcher County, there's thieves that live there. You know, not just Ellis Keys, but the fucking neighbors and shit. I don't want to say any other names, but there's, you know, I don't want to say all of them, but there's only one house on Love's Branch that didn't seem like they were shitheads. Everybody else is selling fucking prescription pills and shit, and, you know, when you have to live like an outlaw, then you have to deal with a bunch of fucking outlaws, and in general, I feel like you treat people good, and that karma comes back, but that, you know, just like them fucking douchebags at the Canistock, it's your niceness is perceived as weakness, and that's just, I don't know, that's just a bullshit. I don't know why Americans can't empathize with others, and why, don't hurt me, what the fuck, I'm not going to hurt you, why would you hurt me, why would you take my things? So if I was in Alaska and that shit happened and I could call the police and the police would be my friends, but because I have to feel like an outlaw, I don't like the cops, I don't, you know, and it's not even about the pot thing. I've had other times when shit has happened and they just didn't give a fuck. They'll fuck you over just for some power shit, just some ego shit where you look at me in the eye, boy, fuck you. But if I got robbed and it wasn't my fucking pot, it was computers and, you know, movie cameras and TVs and shit, so then the police didn't do a fucking thing. They didn't do a fucking thing about it. So I think it would be better to have police officers that, you know, if police officers are enforcing marijuana property laws, that, you know, God, fuck, I almost want to give them a big old hug. Hey, you guys are good fucking people. You're good fucking people. So to the cops in Alaska, I like you all. I don't know you all, but I like you all. This last thing is the Power Mag. Of the 4 states where recreational marijuana commerce is legal, Alaska, Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, only Alaska is not reporting pot-related problems. So they're not reporting it in Alaska. So they're reporting it in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. So that's amazing. So Alaska clearly seems to have a pretty decent, I guess, a power grid. They got oil up there. I don't know how they're getting their fucking electric, but apparently their electric is doing fine, even though they got indoor. So I'll have to undo that. That's a correction. Alaska is not having electricity problems. Nearly 40 years ago, I'll mention this, the Alaska Supreme Court ruled that an adult's right to use and possess a small amount of marijuana at home for personal use was protected under the Alaska Constitution's right to privacy. So Alaska has a culture of, you know, allowing smoking up. They don't have, they do have coffee shops. They legalized it. They haven't sold it yet, but by May is going to be licenses. So within a year's time, Alaska will be up and running, and they'll have coffee shops. So they'll have places for me to hang out with others. It doesn't look good for Washington, Oregon, and Colorado compared to Alaska coffee shops. So Alaska's going to have coffee shops. D.C. is sort of in a no-man's land, and we'll see how D.C. progresses from here. So, but Canada, the whole goddamn country of Canada has legalized it. So, good job, Canada. Justin Trudeau, you're a cool guy, man. I hope I wish him a lot of luck. And Canada's spacious, man. There's fucking Ontario and Ottawa. I don't know anything about Canada. So maybe I should be looking up Canada, because, I don't know, fuck the war on drugs, fuck the culture, the oppression, the police brutality, fucking bullshit, fuck everything that's associated with the war on Nixon, fuck that, fuck Reagan, god damn it. I don't know, it's such fucking bullshit. Anyways, rant over. Alaska, D.C., I'm loving y'all more and more the more I read about y'all, so...